When we say top 1%, most people picture the same image: mansions, private jets, untouchable wealth. That's a seductive shorthand, but it hides a crucial reality. Wealth is relative. The income that places you among the elite in one country can look ordinary in another. A dollar is a dollar, but what it buys, housing, health, education, influence, varies wildly. Today, we'll walk through concrete thresholds, the annual incomes that define the top 1% in 10 countries, and we'll do more than recite numbers. We'll explain the drivers behind those thresholds: housing markets, tax policy, inheritance, commodity dependence, and financial market access, because those are the levers that make the ladder steeper or shallower for millions of people. Numbers matter because they reveal how societies distribute opportunity. When you see a figure like $77,000 for India or $1.5 million for Monaco, don't read it as trivia. Read it as a signal about purchasing power, about social structure, about who wins and why. India, top 1%, approximately $77,000. Let's begin where the absolute dollar value is smallest and the social impact is greatest. In India, the income required to sit in the top 1% is about $77,000 per year. That's roughly $6,500 a month, a sum that would be modest in an expensive Western city. But in India, it places you ahead of 99% of 1.4 billion people. Put another way, this threshold is about 25 times the median or typical Indian income. That ratio tells you the story faster than the dollar amount alone. Why so? India's economy is characterized by vast inequality and rapid growth. The country produces enormous wealth. It has one of Asia's largest concentrations of billionaires and a booming technology sector. Yet hundreds of millions still live at or below subsistence. The income ladder here is highly elastic. A relatively modest absolute increase in earnings produces a massive jump in social standing. For policymakers, that means targeted lifting at lower incomes can dramatically change lives. For investors, it means local six-figure earners command outsized purchasing power relative to their peers. Mexico, top 1%, approximately $140,000. Move west to Mexico, and the threshold rises to roughly $140,000 a year. Compare that to a median income of about $7,000, a 20-to-1 ratio. Mexico's economy combines strong urban wealth, think Polanco and Nuevo Polanco in Mexico City, with a very large informal and low-wage sector. The picture is one of visible inequality. Luxury towers and resort real estate site within drive of neighborhoods where many families lack basic services. What drives Mexico's top-end incomes? A mix: energy and manufacturing rents, remittances, family-owned conglomerates, and a small but influential financial and services elite. The social consequence: elite consumption patterns, second homes in Cancun, private healthcare, international schooling, contrast starkly with the wage realities for most workers. For anyone analyzing social stability, this is a key indicator. High concentration of wealth with limited mobility is a structural risk. Brazil, top 1%, approximately $176,000. In Brazil, the 1% line sits near $176,000 annually. Brazil is resource-rich and urbanized, and yet it demonstrates one of the world's most pronounced wealth divides. Roughly half the population earns less than a few $1,000s a year, while the wealthy control large agricultural, mining, and financial assets. Brazil's elite often derive their wealth from natural resource rents, agribusiness, and media/finance. The result is a geography of extremes: luxury high-rises in São Paulo and Rio, massive favelas in their shadows. The high threshold reflects both the concentration of capital and the high prices for urban real estate and private services. For investors and policymakers alike, Brazil presents both opportunity and fragility. Commodity booms can elevate incomes quickly, but they also leave broad swathes of the population unprotected when the cycle turns. Spain, top 1%, approximately $200,000. In Spain, the top 1% threshold is around $200,000. Spain is notable because it couples substantial social protections, public health care, broad labor rights, with persistent concentrations of wealth, particularly in real estate. Much of Spanish elite wealth is asset-based: family-owned property portfolios, generational land holdings, and stakes in long-standing industrial firms. The Spanish case shows a recurring theme. Welfare systems can blunt income volatility, but they don't dissolve asset concentration. The top 1% here benefit from both property and inherited capital, making their position more stable across generations. That stability explains why, even with strong public services, the list of what membership in the elite buys remains exclusive. Japan. Top 1%, approximately $250,000. Japan requires about $250,000 annually to be among the top 1%. On the surface, Japan's inequality metrics look moderate compared to places like Brazil or India, yet the elite's composition is instructive. It's a class built on long-term saving, corporate seniority, and property rather than headline-making tech (IPOS). Wealth accumulates quietly through pensions, land, and stable corporate ownership. 2 points to note. Urban costs in Tokyo are high, and intergenerational capital plays a strong role. Germany. Top 1%, approximately $300,000. Finally, for this first half, Germany. The threshold sits near $300,000. Germany combines robust social insurance and progressive taxation with a distinctive economic feature. The Mittelstand, the mid-sized family-owned industrial and manufacturing firms that underpin national wealth. The majority of millionaire households in Germany trace their fortunes to inheritance and family enterprise, not to rapid tech windfalls. What matters here is the persistence of capital, land, firms, and financial claims passed down and compound. Taxes and social spending moderate headline inequality, but the deepest concentrations of wealth remain intergenerational. The German top 1% is therefore defined as much by control of productive capital as by annual paycheck size. For policy conversations, Germany highlights attention. Effective safety nets can coexist with deep, durable wealth concentration unless inheritance and capital taxation are specifically addressed. Canada. Top 1%, approximately $375,000. High prices, public goods, private gains. To be in Canada's top 1% today, you need roughly $375,000 a year. That figure captures an important dynamic. Canada combines generous public services with acute housing pressure in its largest metro areas. Cities like Toronto and Vancouver have seen home prices climb faster than incomes for years, creating a situation where generations who own property are far better positioned to reach the top percentile than those who rely on wages alone. United Kingdom, top 1%, approximately $450,000. London's pull and generational wealth. In the United Kingdom, the bar for the top 1% sits near $450,000. That number must be read through a London lens. The capital acts as a gravitational center for global finance, legal services, media, and elite education. London real estate, private schooling costs, and the culture of private clubs all combine to elevate the income required to secure an elite lifestyle. United States, top 1%, approximately $500,000. Capital gains, network effects, and the winner-take-most economy. In the United States, the threshold for the top 1% is approximately $500,000 annually. But that headline obscures a deeper truth. American wealth is heavily skewed by capital returns. The top 0.1%, individuals and families who control venture-backed companies, private equity portfolios, and massive equity positions, often report incomes in the millions. The U.S. distribution is therefore characterized by a steep tail. A few policy and economic details explain the U.S. structure. Tax treatment of capital gains and carried interest remains favorable relative to wage income, privileging owners over employees. Higher education and credentialing act as gatekeepers. The best-paying roles are often accessible only to those with elite degrees and networks. Housing markets in top metros impose high fixed costs that require substantial earnings or inherited capital to manage comfortably. Monaco, top 1%, approximately $1,500,000. Fiscal geography of the ultra-rich. At the apex sits Monaco, where the entry point to the top 1% is roughly $1.5 million per year. Monaco is an extreme case study in the fiscal geography of wealth. A tiny sovereign with a benign tax regime, zero personal income tax for residents, has become a magnet for ultra-high net worth individuals. That status concentrates capital in a way few nations experience. Monaco's threshold reflects three forces: exclusivity of residency, the concentration of global mobile capital, and the local premium on luxury real estate and services. For a very small population, a handful of billionaires and millionaires can shift per capita income metrics dramatically. If this analysis sharpened your view, do one concrete thing. Check your country's 1% threshold, calculate how many times it is of your national median, and ask what levers you can influence, personally and politically, to move up or to make the ladder easier for everyone. If you want more deep, data-driven breakdowns like this, subscribe to Finance Facts. We translate complex numbers into clear choices. Drop a comment with your country. We'll analyze your 1% threshold in a future episode.